This is sodium thiopental. In small doses, this drug is sometimes called truth serum. In large doses, it is the way that we prefer to kill prisoners in America. Sodium thiopental, one of 3 drugs used in combination for lethal injection. Sodium thiopental used to be made in this country by a company in Illinois, but after that company moved its manufacturing operations to Italy, it stopped making the drug. It wasn't worth the trouble anymore because Italians are molto against the death penalty. So about a year ago, the company just stopped making the drug. With no more sodium thiopental being made in the United States or by the American company that outsourced its manufacturing overseas, death penalty states had to look for new ways to get the drug, or they had to come up with new ways to kill their prisoners. The state of Georgia first tried to find an alternate source for getting the drug. Along with Arizona, Arkansas, California, and Tennessee, Georgia scored some from a fly-by-night distributor operating out of the back of a driving school in West London in the UK. Georgia killed 2 people using the drug they got out of the driving school, that sodium thiopental. They brought it from a drug distributor operating in a fly-by-night shack, and they used it to kill 2 people. Then in March, the Drug Enforcement Agency seized Georgia's supply of sodium thiopental, arguing that the drug was imported illegally. They took away every single vial of it that the state had. So then how does Georgia keep killing its prisoners? Georgia decided to switch drugs. The state decided they would start using a drug that has the trade name Nembutal instead to kill its prisoners. Nembutal is a sedative commonly used to euthanize animals. It is not used as a human anesthetic. The Danish company that makes Nembutal says it should not be used in executions. The first time Georgia, nevertheless, used Nembutal to kill a prisoner, reporters who witnessed the execution said the man being killed, quote, jerked his head several times throughout the procedure and muttered after the drug was injected into his veins, and he was supposed to be asleep. Controversy over the exact means by which we kill these prisoners led to an unprecedented decision this summer. In July, when the state of Georgia used Nembutal to execute a man named Andrew Grant DeYoung, the state videotaped killing him. It was the country's first recorded execution in almost 2 decades, the first ever videotaped lethal injection. And it happened because lawyers for another prisoner on death row in Georgia wanted evidence. They wanted evidence for a lawsuit challenging their client's death sentence on the grounds that the states knew we use the drug they use on animals, lethal injection protocol, is brutal and therefore unconstitutional. Because of that lawsuit, somewhere in a sealed locker in Georgia is a video of the state killing a man. But ahead of the man who is bringing that lawsuit, the state of Georgia is now set to execute another man, a man named Troy Davis. 20 years ago, Troy Davis was convicted and sentenced to death for the murder of a Savannah police officer after 9 witnesses identified him as the shooter. Since then, 7 of those 9 witnesses have recanted their testimony, saying they were coerced by the police. The case also suffered from a lack of physical evidence. The murder weapon, for example, has never been found. Because of all of that, 3 of the jurors who convicted Troy Davis now say they would change their vote. Today, Georgia's Board of Pardons and Parole refused to block the Troy Davis execution. He's scheduled to be killed tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The board said it considered, quote, the totality of the information presented before deciding to deny clemency. That board is the only body in the state of Georgia that has the power to commute this death sentence. A last-minute appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court would be Troy Davis's only hope, but that is considered to be an unlikely prospect. This afternoon, the justices of the Supreme Court did stop another execution, the execution of a man named Cleve Foster, who was scheduled to die tonight in Texas for the rape and murder of a woman 10 years ago. Mr. Foster maintains that he is innocent. His lawyers say he did not receive adequate legal help during his trial. This is the 3rd time the Supreme Court has stepped in to stop Cleve Foster's execution. The court's brief order today said the reprieve would remain in effect pending the outcome of Mr. Foster's request for a review of his latest appeal. On Thursday, the Supreme Court also stepped in to stop the execution of another prisoner in Texas, a man named Dwayne Buck. Dwayne Buck's conviction was marred by a psychologist testifying that the fact that Dwayne Buck is African American could contribute to his, quote, future dangerousness. His blackness equals his dangerousness, the jury was told. The justices granted a 30-day reprieve to Dwayne Buck until they decide whether to take the case. Dwayne Buck, or Cleve Foster, would have been the 11th Texas prisoner executed this year. Governor Rick Perry of Texas has sent 235 prisoners to their deaths in Texas during his time as governor. It's more than any governor in the modern history of the country. Governor Perry, of course, is very proud of that record. Conventional political wisdom says that killing prisoners, even ones whose guilt is being vigorously challenged, killing prisoners is a thumbs up for the voters that Republicans count on to give them something like the Republican nomination for president. But with all that's going on right now in death penalty politics and in death penalty jurisprudence, are there any limits to that?
Your state has executed 234 death row inmates, more than any other governor in modern times. Have you struggled to sleep at night with the idea that any one of those might have been innocent?
In the state of Texas, if you come into our state and you kill one of our children, you kill a police officer, you are involved with another crime and you kill one of our citizens, you will face the ultimate justice in the state of Texas, and that is you will be executed.
What do you make of that dynamic just happened here? The mention of the execution of 234 people drew applause.
I think Americans understand justice.
Since then, Texas has executed another person. They're now up to 235 on Governor Perry's watch. In Texas, the cases of Dwayne Buck and Cleve Foster are likely to return to Governor Perry's desk if the Supreme Court ultimately turns away their appeals. In Georgia, Troy Davis will not even get the luxury of a last-minute appeal to that state's governor. Vigils are happening tonight in Georgia on the steps of the state capitol and at the state prison in Georgia where they kill prisoners. Tomorrow there will be a vigil there. Among those asking for the Troy Davis execution to be stopped are Pope Benedict, Georgia native son, former President Jimmy Carter, and William Sessions, a former director of the FBI. Nevertheless, Troy Davis due to be executed at 7 p.m. tomorrow.